Hello folks, here's my run through of Language Paper 2 front to back, okay? Let's get some headlines going. This is the other 50% of your GCSE English language. Both Paper 1 and Paper 2, both out of 80 marks, and for both of them you want to be aiming for half marks if you want to be getting a grade 4. Obviously if you've got high aspirations, you'll see how many more marks you're going to need. This is the same as Language Paper 1 in that there are 4 questions in Section A, testing your reading skills, and 1 on Section B, which is your writing skills. The main difference in this text though, in this exam though, is you get 2 texts. You'll get one from the 19th century and you'll get one from either the 20th or the 21st. They'll both be on the same topic, the same way these 2 texts, photo texts, are both on London. You will have 2 texts, different time frames, same topic, okay? You will see that a lot of the skills, a lot of the approaches, a lot of what you've already been asked to do in Language Paper 1, you're asked to do again in Language Paper 2, which is fantastic. Because if you've got the principles and the structures and the approaches down for Paper 1, Paper 2 is not a million miles away. The only difference is there is this additional summary question, which is testing your inference skills. Testing your inference skills, okay? Now, this is the same mark scheme as in Language Paper 1. It's the same idea for perceptive detail and clear and relevant analysis. So all the things we said in the last paper that are going to allow us to access these things still run true. We still need layer of ideas and interpretations because that takes us to a more detailed level and makes us far more likely to make a perceptive point. We need to make sure that the same way each layer has the same 3 ingredients, our layers have the same 3 ingredients: focus, effect, link. There's 3 buzzwords for effective analysis. We focus on a method, what is the effect of it, and then link it back to the topic. Finally, the same groups of methods that we've already talked about in Paper 1, the same groups of methods that you've got on lockdown and the effects of them, they are just as relevant here. And as I say, if you don't know those, go and make sure you do, because it is infinitely easier when you do. Now, let's get to some of the nitty gritty. Let's get to some of the structures now. As I say, right, now let's get to the approach and the structure for these individual questions, okay? First up, let's do our reading. Now, the same as Language Paper 1, we need to be actively reading here. If we read, they've got 2 texts, both could be a page and a half long. That's 3 pages of information. We can't read 3 pages before question 1, and then again for question 2, and again for question 3. The first time we read them, we've got to make it count. Get your highlighter, and you are highlighting for 2 things. 1, you're highlighting any rich techniques that you see. That's for question 3 and question 4. You're going to need your techniques ready to go. And then finally, any viewpoints. Question 4 is all about the writer's viewpoint. So you're going to, if you see key elements, key areas that tell you what they think about that topic, make sure you make a note of them because you'll need them later on. Okay? Right, question 1 should be straightforward. It's true or false. There's 8 statements. How hard can it be? National average for this question is lower than Paper 1 in question 1 in Paper 1. That's because people don't follow the process. A to H will be in the same order as the extract. So if you are finding about statement D and you haven't read about A, B and C yet, well then that means they must be wrong, okay? Make it easy for yourself. Don't shade them in first, tick or cross on the outside, okay? And as you go through the statement, you are going through the text. Is it true or false? No, that first one, that's false. Second one, nah, that's false. Third one, nah, that's false. Fourth one, yes, that is true. Keep going that way until you've got 4 ticks and 4 crosses, and when you are happy those are the 4, then shade in your boxes, okay? Don't start going, oh, I think that's right, shade. Oh, I think that's right, shade. Oh, I'm not sure, in a pickle. Work it out on the side first of all, before you shade in, okay? Take your time, and then you get 4 out of 4, 100% bish bash bosh. Question 2. Question 2 is an inference question. It makes you think about the whole of the sources, but it only makes you focus on a very small chunk of them. It does. If you are analysing the whole extract, you've gone wrong somewhere. Okay, so look at the question, highlight the focus of the question. What are the two very narrow areas it wants us to focus on? In this one, the girl called Rachel in source A and the young lady with pink eyes in source B. Check whether it is similarities or differences, because it could be either or. Okay? Now, if we look at the mark scheme for this one, it wants, first of all, perceptive inferences from both texts. So, just like previously, the way we get to perceptive is with our layers of ideas. We don't just want to make one inference because we're not going to get a very good mark. We want to layer up our different ideas. That looks like a paragraph on text A and what we can infer from text A, and a paragraph from text B. Now look at the mark scheme. Judicious references and use of detail relevant to the focus of the question. There's no reference there to having 3, 4, 5, 6 different pieces of evidence. Okay? Find one piece of evidence, but make it a brilliant piece of evidence so that you can then get loads of layers of inference from it. And then once you've done that, to hit that last bit, you need to bring together the differences between them. So your final paragraph summarises the differences between the two texts. Let's now have a little look at what bad inference looks like. Here is a quote taken from one of the texts, okay? A bad, poor, low-level piece of inference might be someone that looks at that quote and they make a very basic inference. The girl was made fun of. This girl had done bad things. Those just regurgitation of what's been said is not going to get you the big marks. My advice to you is this. Look at the word choices, but don't analyse them as words. Just use the words to shape your interpretations. So for example, if Jeremy Kyle has informed the audience, well, that shows this girl is receiving no sympathy, even though she's vulnerable. If they describe her sordid misdemeanours, well, she's being judged then, judged as immoral. What you think is sordid is different to what I would think was sordid. This girl's anorexic. Not everyone would think that's a sordid, immoral thing to be. Finally, we've got our nation. So there's a wide range of society which is questioning her. These points are, even individually, far better than these, but imagine if they were layered 1, 2, 3 on top of each other. No examiner is going to say that's not perceptive detail. So, what do I now do? This is dead simple. No focus effect link, no fancy complicated zooms, no massive methods. This is straight up simple inference. Make a statement of making the central point. Rachel is vulnerable as a result of the mistakes she made in the past. Your piece of evidence, rich in that there's loads of inferences we can make, not rich in terms of there's loads of methods, and then you are just layering up your different inferences. So those 3 inferences that I had on the board a minute ago, here they are in sentence form. She's made choices people will consider immoral. The nation shows that she's being humiliated in front of a large number of people, and the presenter has shown her no empathy or encouragement. Those points, layered up inferences. You do one of them for text A, you do one of them for text B, and then after that, you're then going to go on to your comparison. At a minimum, you need a sentence saying the differences between them. So I've made a point here that one of them was vulnerable because of the choices she's made, the other one was vulnerable because of a physical disability. And if you have that with your inferences, that's going to be solid for 5 or 6 marks. The top students though, the ones that get the top, go further than just that point. What does that tell us? What can I infer from the inference? What do these differences between the two tell us? That tells us a lot about our own moral compass, that we've gone from being entertained by disability to being entertained by people who are heroin anorexics. What does that tell us about us as an audience? So have a look at that difference and reflect on what you can infer from that inference. Okay? These texts are about Jeremy Kyle, by the way. That's why I'm talking about Jeremy Kyle and anorexic heroin addicts. It's not a normal thing. Okay? Right. Question 3 is a dream, because it's just paper 2. Question 3 is question 2 in paper 1. They are language questions. So everything we've already talked about, focus effect links, layers and layers, there are different language groups, the specific effects of them, all of that runs true in this question. If you don't know these, watch that, then you will. This though is worth 12 marks. So all these things you've already done, add them a bit, because we need 12 marks, not 8 marks this time. Okay? Part of the reason why it's 12 marks, it doesn't give you an extract, it just gives you the whole text. Refers to source B, that whole massive text. First of all, you want to be highlighting the focus of the question. This wants to know about how language is used to describe the attractions in the show. So all of our points need to come back to that. Rich quotes, 2 of them, not 3 or 4, just 2. And if you've forgotten, this is what I mean by a rich quote. A quote that I've got lots and lots and lots to say about, okay? Then, these are the same slides from paper 1, deliberately. 1 sentence introduction, giving an overall effect. This is how language is working together to present the attractions in the show. Then, once you've got your introduction, you're on to your paragraphs. Make a point about the statement. Look how simple it is. Straight up, he'll use figurative language. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. Put your evidence, a quote that's got lots and lots of things to say, and then you are just layering up them. Using the groups of methods that you already know, using their specific effect. He'll use the metaphor, paralyze, there's my focus, creates an image, because of metaphor, it always focuses on the image of an incurable physical limitation, so then link that back to the text, reflecting his powers to do anything about his fear. I just keep going with my layer, offering a range of methods, making sure I cover all of those alliteration, figurative language, sentences, words, making sure that I'm always offering precise ideas, making sure that I'm offering multiple interpretations of a single method, making sure that I've got a whole range of methods throughout my whole answer. Exactly the same as question 2, paper 1. Just to prove my point, here is my example from a paper 2. Exactly the same point, method, evidence, and then layer. Now, people here will be pretty comfortable with that now, so I'm going to show you one more little tip on this one. One more little tip that's going to take us to a top level 7. There is our standard layer paragraph. In this video here, I talked about how you can analyse words not just as individuals, but as groups, and we call that in English a semantic field, groups of words connected to the same topic. Paper 2 lends itself very nicely to these semantic fields. Look at groups of words. In this one it had devoured, extinguished and snuffed out. All words to do with destruction. Well, that tells me something very different then. That tells me a lot about how humans, how society views these vulnerable people if we're going to use such destructive imagery through these words. So if you want to go to the top, do exactly the same thing as you would in terms of if you were analysing an individual word, but instead talk about a semantic field and a group of words and what connotations can you draw from them, what images do they present, link that back to the topic. Okay? Then we're on to question 4. In my opinion, this is the hardest thing they'll ask you to do in your English language GCSE. Okay? Naughty question unless you follow my process, unless you follow the steps I'm going to show you. Okay? First of all, the most important word in this question is that, how. This is not a question about what the 2 writers' viewpoints are. This is a question of how the writers use methods to present their viewpoints. Okay? We get very few marks for saying this writer thinks this writer thinks this. All the marks are for the method analysis. Okay? This is a method question, the same as question 3, the same as question 2, and question 3, and question 4 in paper 1. This is exactly the same. Now, luckily, you guys know a group of methods that I guarantee are going to be in your texts. I don't even know what they are, but I guarantee that these texts will have some sort of figurative language, some sort of sentence, some sort of alliteration, and some sort of words. They will also have the 3 non-language features we talked about in paper 1. You will probably find a character. You'll probably find something that could symbolise or represent something. You'll probably find some pathetic fallacy. These things will be in them. Now, you won't do well in this question if you do what a lot of students do, which is they look at 3 pages of writing and they're looking to see, right, oh, there's a simile there. Is there a one source B? No simile there. Oh, well, let's have a look. Maybe, oh, I found some adjectives here. Is there an adjective in source B? Oh, yeah, I found one. You're going to run out of time doing that. You're going to get in a right pickle, okay? These will be in it. Find them, okay? Now, the way I would suggest you do that is, first of all, underline the focus of the question. And then number 2, my strategy, my advice is you look specifically at the openings of both texts. Make it easy for yourself by just focusing on a smaller section. Have a look. These things will be in it. Here is a random AQA text. There's all the things in it that are here. There's all our figurative language, word choices, sentence types, non-language, it's all there. Now let's have a look at source B, 19th century. Once again, it's all there. There's all these different things here are there ready and waiting for you. Don't be that student who's just randomly reading pages trying to find a random method. Find the ones you already know, okay? Because then, when you've got your two openings and you've got all them different things, we can group them together. We've got then alliteration in both. We've got non-language choices in both. We've got sentence choices in both. We've got figurative language in both. And now we're laughing. You don't need all these. You need two pairs of methods. You need alliteration in both and then non-language in both, for example. Okay? Then, you're ready to start writing up. Introduce your answer. If you want to be fancy and say both writers feel this, however they're different because of this, you can do. But you can also be as simple as the writer in source A thinks this, the writer in source B thinks this. Okay? That is absolutely fine as well. It gets you on the dance floor establishing the viewpoint for A and the viewpoint for B. Okay? Now, welcome to the coat hanger paragraph. Coat hangers. When you go home from school and you hang your blazer up, you don't chuck it on the sofa, you hang your blazer up, you hang it on a coat hanger. Okay? Just like a coat hanger hangs up your clothes, your coat hanger sentence here hangs up your ideas, hangs up your points of view. Okay? Let's have a look at what that looks like then. Here is my model paragraph. A coat hanger statement establishes the method in common. Both writers use figurative language, or both writers use alliteration. Make it easier for yourself by making sure your figurative language is one of the groups. Don't say both writers use a simile, because you're going to find it very difficult to find two similes. But you're highly likely to find a piece of figurative language, so a metaphor, simile, personification, or zoomorphism in both of your texts. Okay? So make it easy for yourself and make that statement nice and broad by making it a group. Okay? Once you've got your coat hanger statement, put your evidence from source A and tell your examiner the method. So both writers use figurative language. In source A, it is a metaphor, and here is my evidence. And you can guess what happens now. Layer, 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 focus, effect, link. Obviously, I start with my metaphor first of all. I focus on the metaphor, what's the image I associate with it, link it back to the topic. But there's not just metaphors there, there's bear baiting, well that's a plosive. So here I go with my plosive, and I've not made just one interpretation, I've made two. So I've got 3 layers to say about source A. Now time is running short, so now in the same paragraph I'm going to go to source B, and I'm going to say a method that is also figurative language. If I said my coat hangers are both a figurative language, and I've said it in A, well I need to put the same in B. So similarly, source B also uses figurative language, except this time it's personification. Here I go again, what's the focus, effect, link, and once again I then talk about some of the word choices, so I'm adding more methods to it. This is one paragraph and there's a lot going on, but my examiner is loving it because I've shown perceptive detail analysis, I've shown the ability to compare how methods been used because I've said how both of them use the same one, but I've also got words, sentences, alliteration, figurative language. I've picked apart a whole range of methods. I've talked about how the writer has communicated their viewpoint, not just what their viewpoint is. Lead by methods in this. So many students don't do it. So many students read this as a question of what are the two writers' point of view. They're not going to do very well. You will, because you'll lead it by methods. Okay? Look how my first layer is always the lead group. If I've said figurative language, I've got to talk about that first. Otherwise my examiner is going to think I'm an idiot. If I say both use figurative language, and then I go on about alliteration and word choices before I get to the bit I said at the start, it will make us look silly. Okay? Can I also just bring your attention to this first little bit here, because also, again, I want to show you how you can break free from that layers a little bit, from that focus effect link a little bit. Make sure your coat hanger statement has got a nice broad statement, as I said before. If you have done your evidence properly, you won't need to have a clear focus on there. use the previous point as a focus if you need to, so you can mould that order of the focus effect link to suit your purposes. As long as those three things are in each layer, it counts as a layer, you get your marks. It's only when there's bits missing where you have an issue. And also layer in your multiple interpretations and methods. Even though this is a different question to your question 3, your principle of different interpretations remains the same. Okay? Right, last up is question 5. Question 5 will give you a statement, and it'll ask you to give your opinion on the statement. Now everyone has an opinion, so in theory this should be great. This is exactly the same mark scheme as in paper 1. So all those things we said in paper 1, all those skills, the depth, the devices for effect, the purposeful structure, the content, the accuracy, the spag for effect, all of that is identical. They want to see those things. Now that's interesting, because you wouldn't believe the number of students that go on autopilot here. And in paper 1, they've made sure they've got all their metaphors and similes and imagery, that they varied their sentences, they've done loads of good stuff to get those marks. And in paper 2, they just go very, very boring. I think this is my point of view. Don't be boring. Don't be. Okay? Let's go. Let's look at first of all, how we can not be boring. So, if I use this idea of a gun, okay, and I use an old class I had of mine, there was a question they had, that guns are bad. Someone said that guns are bad, right to express your point of view on the statement. So many of them went, yeah, guns, they kill people, they shoot people, shouldn't have no guns, okay? Well, that's a really naive and silly argument, isn't it? If a mature person would think about how soldiers have guns, how we fire guns when we go paintballing, how guns are an Olympic sport. It's naive and silly to say guns are all bad, because they're not. So first of all, when you see that statement, don't just jump in for a really naive and silly interpretation, but think about it, what a mature writer, a mature student would say. If this one is about looking after the vulnerable people, don't be naive and say, yeah, we look after the vulnerable people. Everyone should look after the fireworks outside. Everyone should look after the vulnerable people, because that isn't what happened. Right, once I got my mature arguments, excuse the fireworks, once I got my mature arguments, I can now go on to my plan. Now my advice to you is not to have a whole brainstorm of 100,000 different things, okay? Make a nice simple introduction, pick 2 main reasons, and I'll tell you why in a minute, 2 reasons that you're going to share. Give a little anecdote, that's your secret weapon. Don't be one of them students that just keeps going, oh, I think this, I think this, I think this. Spice up your life by giving an anecdote or a vision of the future where you use your descriptive writing, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute, and then your conclusion. Broaden it out. This isn't actually a debate about vulnerable people. This is a debate about how we see ourselves, about our stamp on society. Make it bigger than what it needs to be. Now the reason why this is important is because then it breaks up your text into an opportunity to show your examiner the different things you can do. It shows you can give an overview of a topic and an emotive argument. It shows that you can give your DeForest devices. I'll show you what those are in a moment if you're not sure what I mean by that. It shows you can be descriptive and use imagery and use all those good things that you've already done in paper 1. And it shows how you can add gravitas and power to your overall statement. If you plan it out the way I have shown you, you're not going to be dull and boring, and you're going to add far more colour and variety to your argument. Introductions. Do not go in and say, I agree with the statement because, or like no newspaper article, no speech, no letter has ever started like that, okay? A tip I would give you is to describe, set the scene for the debate. Why are we talking about looking after vulnerable people? Why are we talking about guns? What is the point in the argument? Why is it relevant to us in 2021? And then after that, then establish your point of view. And that's a much more thoughtful way of opening your question 5 rather than just going straight into I disagree or I agree. Okay? Now, burgers. I love a burger. This one's alright. It's not as good as this one though. That's my burger. That's the one I want. I want a burger with loads and loads of stuff in it. Okay? So, let's make our paragraphs like those burgers. A burger has bread at the top. That's our argument. That's our central argument. At the end, it has bread at the bottom, so we return back to that argument. So in our point 1 and point 2 in our plan, our main arguments, our main reasons, lead in with the argument, fill your paragraph with all of the devices that make it persuasive. These are your deforest features. These are the things that make your argument more powerful and more effective. The examiner is looking for your effective and thoughtful use of these. And then to make sure you haven't gone off on a tangent, come back to that argument at the end. It should therefore look like this. Here is one of my burger paragraphs. I've got a clear statement at the start. I've got a clear statement at the end. My same argument, burgers, is the bread on my piece, and in the middle I've put all my deforest. 2 other bits of advice for you. 1, be careful with your facts. I don't know what it is, but for some reason when it comes to these sorts of questions, students kind of lose sense of what a sensible fact would be. 97% of people will die on the street. Well, that's not true. 72% of people will be shot by a gun. That's not true. Be sensible with your facts. Don't make nonsense, silly facts. And the best way of doing that is by avoiding numbers. Don't try and put a number on it. A fact can also be, there are homeless people on the street. Some people tonight will go to bed hungry and their bed will be a concrete doorstep. Those are facts, and they're far more powerful than there are currently 200,000 million homeless people on the streets of London. That's nonsense. Okay? The other thing, other last bit of advice to give you is think about the counter argument. People go, can I offer both sides of the argument? Well, yeah, but what's the point in writing a letter where you're going to go, it could be this or it could be this? Why would you write a speech saying it could be this, it could be this? Instead, think about how you feel. Think about how the other team what would they say, what would be the response, and then use that to then smash it out of the park. If they would say that, what would you say to obliterate that argument? And that's my lot. Good luck.